Baghdad falls 3 weeks after the invasion. A couple of days later, looting begins.
Looting didn't begin a couple of days later. As soon as any portion of the country was defeated, looting began.
Looting began sooner.
You're changing.
Looting in Baghdad, excuse me.
Okay,
looting in Baghdad.
But you're going from one regime to another regime.
Right.
And there's a period of disorder. If you go to World War II and look at what happened in Germany, it was savagery, the looting and disorder that took place.
Can you, as a layman, what's a kind of concise summary of what went wrong from the fall of Baghdad until the surge in 2007? Mm-hmm. Can you summarize? What would a student, say a college student?
Well, if you read the book, a student would read the book, and you would see on the book and on the website all kinds of discussion of just that. To start with, Saddam Hussein released something like 100,000 people from his prisons. Second, the Sunnis that were going to lose control of the country to the Shia in terms of majority,
right,
immediately began trying to form a party of return to take back the government. Saddam Hussein called for jihad and brought in a bunch of jihadists through Syria, through Iran, through North Africa and other countries, neighboring countries. And the Sunnis were concerned about the way things were going, and Al-Qaeda got in there and began its process of working with the Sunnis. And at least for a period, until the awakening in 2006, early 2006 that began, the insurgency grew, which had not been fully predicted by the intelligence community.
Let me quote you again. Known and unknown, quote, "While the attraction of foreign jihadists to the conflict in Iraq was possible, the fact is that our intelligence agencies failed to warn of the possibility. We would discover more gaps in intelligence. It turned out the Iraqi infrastructure was not in serviceable condition. It turned out that the Iraqi army did not remain in whole units capable of being used for reconstruction. It turned out that the Iraqi police was not a trustworthy professional force," close quote. WMDs, this litany, here's where, are these kinds of intelligence failures to be expected because intelligence is a very hard, uncertain business, or was this a failure that within your wide range of experience in the federal government lay outside the norm? How do you assess this?
Well, I've been around this business of national security things for quite a while, and I do discuss it in the book. First of all, it's a very tough job, intelligence gathering. Second, you're dealing with closed societies. And third, things change. And some are not knowable. You just don't know them. Now, we probably could have had a better read on the infrastructure than we did. I mean, that's something that Saddam Hussein had been denying the infrastructure, and it was much more fragile, their electric grid and things like that. Maybe that might have been knowable. How the insurgency would evolve, I don't think was knowable. And George Tenet talks about this in his book, and said if they'd thought that was a big problem, they would have put it in the executive summary, and they didn't. And now, but I've seen intelligence shortfalls like that throughout my career over decades. Why? Because it's tough. It's tough work. It isn't. You can't expect that you're going to have perfect information, and which is, I suppose, why Eisenhower said the plan is nothing, planning is everything. And you know that you have to plan, and it can be very valuable planning. But when you make first contact with the enemy, the plan goes out, and you begin to adapt and adjust to the things that the enemy has a brain, and he starts doing things differently.
So Everyone said that you didn't feel let down by the CIA.
No, I didn't at all.
Okay,
I mean, it's a tough business.
So, but later comes.
It's easy to blame and criticize and all of that. Everyone's got 20/20 hindsight. No, I think they have a darn tough job, and generally they do a pretty good job.
Okay. Now, however, later on, we've got, again, I'll quote you, known and unknown. After a few in the CIA alleged that some policy officials had politicized intelligence, in 2004, I have to say, I found this one of the most staggering assertions in the book. In 2004, I, Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, I asked not to receive my daily oral briefings from the CIA. The Central Intelligence Agency had become so unreliable as a political matter that the Secretary of Defense of the United States said, keep them away from me. This was being reflected in the press. Daniel Dresner in the New Republic 2003, quote, the CIA is in open revolt against the White House.
First of all, in answer to your suggestion there, studies have been made, and there is absolutely no truth to the. I think it was the 9/11 Commission that looked at this.
Larry Silberman's commission.
Well, the Rob Silberman Commission, whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's no truth to the idea that the administration, the Bush administration, tried to politicize the intelligence. I don't think there's anyone who will say that who knows anything about it.
Right.
And
but
I
the
think
CIA was accusing the administration, weren't they?
No. When you say the CIA, some person in the CIA was saying things like that. But I mean, you could find some person in the State Department or the Defense Department or in the CIA or anywhere in the Congress who will say almost anything. And they tend not to be the people at the top levels. But the short answer is that the independent commission found that was not the case. Now, just to correct the record, I had a terrific CIA briefer, and it went on fine. And then they changed that person to another person, and I had nothing against that person. But I started reading in the paper that somebody in the CIA was leaking to the press either the questions that were being asked by Bush administration officials, not me as it turned out, but others, the questions they were asking or the questions they were not asking. And I said to myself, gee, I'm not sure that's a good idea for them to be doing that. Therefore, I think what I'll do is I'll read the CIA materials every day and not have a briefer. If they're going to go back and report who's asking what, and then they're going to leak it to the press.
I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, I think maybe I'll just read the materials and have someone on my staff ask the questions that there are questions I think they ought to ask.
Okay. Weapons of mass destruction. The notion that the Bush administration politicized intelligence, nonsense. No evidence whatsoever.
Absolutely false. No one has a shred of evidence to suggest that that's the case.
Larry Silberman has said, in fact, I interviewed Larry Silberman, Judge Silberman, who was a Silberman of the Silberman-Robb Commission, and he said that is a slander. All right. Karl Rove, in his memoir, says that perhaps his bitterest regret is failing to go on the offensive against the charge that they had politicized the intelligence. This whole notion Bush lied, people died, that he lied us into the war, and Karl Rove says that over in the White House they made the decision they weren't going to go into it. It would look defensive.
Karl Rove is exactly right.
Well, that's the question. Was this a terrible mistake?
It was.
It was.
It was a mistake on everyone's part, and it's a shame.
So the President of the United States, in retrospect, the President of the United States needed to carry the American people with him through those charges. All right.